What's up, everybody? I'm Abatage, and welcome to this special New Game Plus version of the podcast, or episode of the podcast, I should say. I'm joined, as always, by my fabulous co-host, Pokepaw.
Hello there.
This time around for our New Game Plus, we're going to talk about why this game is so good. And what that means is we've each chosen a game that we really enjoy and we really like. But for some reason, it's got a bit of criticism, perhaps, on the internet or just as reputations go over time. So we're going to try and put forward our arguments about why we think it's so good and why we think that these games are worth checking out and having a go at. So let's kick it off with Paula. Tell us what game you are going to sell us today.
Okay, so first of all, when I was looking for criticism and stuff like that for this game, I swear I remember this game being like not as well like as it's supposed to be given the critics reviews. But well, here we are. I still try to find like all kinds of criticism, but I came out of it short. But anyway, the game that I'm going to talk about today is Persona Q Shadow of the Labyrinth. Kind of like a Persona and Etrian Odyssey matchup in terms of it has Persona 3 and 4 characters, but it has an Etrian Odyssey gameplay. So this game was released for the Nintendo 3DS on 2014. This is before Atlus was releasing games for everyone at the same time. So it was released in June in Japan and November in North America and Europe. So Persona Q kind of centers around the cast of Persona 3 and Persona 4. Though you have to pick at the start of the game, like which protagonist do you want to play as, and that will affect like some of the bits and pieces of the story, though I'm not sure like how much it affects. What else? The gameplay of Persona Q, as I stated earlier, is more akin to Etrian Odyssey, and that means that it is a first-person grid-based dungeon crawler, and you are supposed to be drawing your map as you go. And there's like a couple of interesting bits of gameplay that were adapted from Etrian Odyssey, such as having a 5-member party instead of a 4-member party, and also the position of your party kind of matters in the sense that you have like a front and a back line. I don't remember like which one has 3 and which one has 2 characters, or if you can pick that in a way. But you usually want like either support or long range characters on the back, and melee and tanky characters on the front. So since you move like I'm gonna say like in a chessboard in a way, or in a overall grid, each step you take will also affect your, I don't remember the name of it, but I'm gonna say your random encounter radar. Because you have a little icon on a corner of the screen that changes color and gives you like a sense of urgency in a way. So whenever that icon is, I'm gonna say green, but I don't remember if it's green or blue or gray or whatever. If it's a certain color, that means that you're pretty safe. That like you have plenty of steps before a random encounter occurs. And the more you walk, like each step kind of rolls if that chance is increased. And when you're like at max chance of a random encounter, or like it's pretty much like you get a random encounter next step, that your icon kind of like flashes red. So you have to be careful on what you do. Why is this important? Because on the map there's enemies called foes or FOES.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what that stands for, but the thing is that you have like, I'm gonna call them overworld enemies, and each time you move in the grid, they move on their kind of like walking pattern too.
Mm.
So there's since the dungeons are themed around, I'm gonna say kind of like stories or settings. Like the first one, if I remember correctly, is themed around Alice in Wonderland.
Cool.
You have the foes here are oversized giant cards, and they are trying to paint the roses that are on the map that are white. They're painting them red.
Just like Alice in Wonderland, yeah.
Yep. So the kind of like the walking pattern that they follow is that they go directly to the nearest white rose bush,
Mm.
and then they spend like a couple of your walking turns there. So if I don't remember, like, so if they, I think these ones, if they spot you, they follow you, but I'm not sure. But at the very least, you don't want to walk into their pattern.
Mm-hmm.
But since you know their pattern, you can kind of like walk when they are not walking yet. But if you notice that your random encounter radar is flashing red, you may not want to start doing that yet, because each turn inside of battle also counts for the FOEs to move. And an FOE can just come in and crash the party if you're not careful. And they are like very, very strong enemies.
Mm-hmm.
To the point that whenever you're like in that particular dungeon because of story, you don't want to challenge them because they're too strong for you right now. But you do want to go back like after finishing that dungeon, and you can challenge the FOEs then, and you should be like strong enough to defeat them.
Nice.
So in a way, they're like, first of all, they give you like a puzzle, so you have to walk around that puzzle to get to wherever you need to go.
Mm-hmm.
But also they give you like a reason to revisit the dungeons after finishing them, because some missions, if I remember correctly, they ask you for things that the FOAs drop.
Cool.
Yep. So it is actually pretty cool. um and and finally, well, the overall plot revolves around, I'm gonna say, a dream. Like the Persona 4 and Persona the 3 cast kind of like meet. I'm gonna say in a dream, but I don't remember like what's the catch at the beginning uh of the game,
Mm-hmm.
like how they get there in particular. But they meet Ray and Zen, which are brother and sister and brother. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
Ray is the sister, Zen is the brother, I think, allegedly, if I remember correctly. But the thing is that they're like in this kind of like school fair, like Japanese style, where every class has like a stand, pretty much,
Mm-hmm.
or an event. So each one of dungeons is pretty much like one of these classes, mazes, sort of thing. And I think there's four and the final one. So there's 5 dungeons, if I remember correctly. Again, I played this like a long time ago, so I actually want to replay it at some point. But holy fuck, this game is long. Um, and you have to go through each of these dungeons because there's something on each of them that's important to the story.
Mhm.
And you kind of like want to help Ray kind of like regain her memory and pretty much bring her back home or something like that. And shenanigans. Like the game, it's also kind of like a fan service game in terms of, hey, you have these characters from two very beloved games for fans of this franchise. So in a way, it's a way to have them like interact with one another in very fun and cute ways. Uh, so yeah, I think I've explained most of the game, if I remember correctly.
Cool.
Funnily enough, I think this was like my first quote unquote Persona game.
Nice.
It's kind of funny because even though I didn't know the characters, I didn't know shit about the game, I still enjoyed it a lot. Though I wonder if playing it again now that I actually play Persona 3 and 4, would my enjoyment of the game be any different?
Yeah.
But at the time that I played it, it was a blast and I love it to bits. So, why is it criticized? Or what do I remember it being criticized? Well, first of all, the art style, because all the characters are like Chibi-tron. They're like big head, tiny body kind of characters. They kind of I really like that style just because everything looks so much cuter and it makes uh like the idea that they're like kind of like in this dream and they're like hanging out together all that more fun in a way.
Yeah.
Because like Persona 3 and Persona 4, even though their art styles are kind of similar, there's still like key differences that would make it like a little more difficult to blend the styles, but it's not like super noticeable. So I still feel that going with the TV style was the right choice,
Mhm.
both because of the tone of the game and because of they didn't have to worry about uh, matching up art styles in a way. And plus, the low resolution of the 3DS kind of like made that like the bigger head, wider facial features characters work a little bit better, in my opinion.
Nice.
Um, the other reason it's kind of like criticized is that characters are caricatures of their real selves in their games. So uh, the Tsukiko in Persona 3, uh, like he has like this complete stick of or like reasons of why he's like always training and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, but also he's a more serious character in a way. I can talk about why he's the way he is without spoiling the shit out of it. I know the game is old, but people are entitled to live under a rock and not know anything about the game. But yeah, like the guy is pretty much like the melee attacker of the team. And he's very strong. He trains a lot and stuff like that. And they took like that essence and distilled it to the most basic thing in the game. So like he's always training, but you don't know why he's always training. And he gets along with Tia from Persona 4. And Tia likes. Okay, so there's like a running gag in Persona 4 because Tia is also like the kind of character that trains a lot, but for different reasons.
Right.
And she really likes kung fu, and um, she also likes food in general. But the thing is that a couple of times when one of the other characters kind of invited them to eat, and he actually was inviting just the main character when he first arrived at the school.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, hey, maybe we could eat like a steak or something like that. And he like just jump at the idea of a fillet or something like that. And they pretty much took that and made Tia in person like you like really like meat in general. To the point that it's like her running out in the game. Um though I don't remember it being like super different from the original game, but a lot of people say that they reduced a lot of the characters to the running gag on the game rather than just being the character itself.
Right.
Um, and finally, the game can get a little bit repetitive, especially since you sometimes have to do backtracking to get some items from the FOEs. But I feel that that's completely optional. Don't
Mm-hmm.
quote me on that because I played this game so many years ago that I actually don't remember. But since it's a long game and it is a turn-based RPG, uh, of course, for some people, it can get very repetitive,
Mm.
especially if you're going out of your way to do like all the missions.
Yeah.
So, for reference, I think that it took me 78 hours to finish this game when I first played it.
Nice.
Um, so for main story, it's 60 hours. For main plus, it's 80 hours, and for 100% is 120-ish hours. So this is a chunker. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, in that regard, it is very fair that people find it like kind of repetitive. Though I feel like it is fresh enough in a way for you to uh, take longer to find it repetitive over the original Persona 4, because the original Persona 4 and Persona 4 Golden have actually like um, randomly generated dungeons in a way.
Right.
So usually, like the exit and the next floor tiles are, they are there, and in some floors it's like they are like in a fixed spot, but the tiles that you use to get there are generated upon you entering the dungeon.
Right.
So in that regard, that's one of the reasons why Persona 5 was very well received. That instead of having like an auto-generated dungeon, you actually have uh, a man-made dungeon with actual puzzles.
Nice.
In Persona Q, again, the dungeon is again handmade
Mm-hmm.
through and through. But you actually have to draw the dungeon. I think you can put like the walls in auto draw. Like whenever you run up to a wall, the game will draw it for you in
Right.
the bottom screen of the 3DS. But you have to actually like put icons for the different things yourself.
Oh, cool. That's cool.
It is pretty cool, and I love that. I know that I haven't played Etrian Odyssey, but I think they there you have to draw everything. Like the game does nothing for you. So in a way, Persona Q kind of eases you into that kind of gameplay.
Mm.
So yeah, and why do I love this game? And it's been difficult to talk about the why it's criticized without saying why I love it. But okay, here we are. So first of all, I overall like the characters, both new and old, and that was at a time where I didn't know who the fuck these guys from Persona 3 and 4 were.
Yeah.
Um, I really like the twists and turns of the story, which kind of surprised me because it kind of took a more somber turn at some point. Um, and it actually made me cry. Holy crap. I do remember that one. But the oral story, even though it's not like all that complex, I do find most of the dialogue to be like very good and very funny, especially seeing like everyone interact together in a way they wouldn't be able to.
Mm-hmm.
There's like you have like all the characters from Persona 4 Golden, Yeah, because Marie's there. And you have the characters from Persona 4 called Portable, minus the female character. Because in Persona 4 Portable, you can pick a male or female character. Well,
Right.
the female character, which I think is called Kotone, is not there. But Theodore, that is like the velvet room guy who helps you out on your adventure and lets you fuse demons and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
is there. What the fuck? And because he is like just for Persona 3 portable. Because the usual helper that you get is Elizabeth. I'm very happy that Marie and what was her name? Margaret from Persona 4 are there because Margaret is the best.
Nice.
Uh, uh, well, and you have, besides that cast, you have Zen and Ray. Zen is kind of like this mysterious character, and Ray is just a ball of sunshine, and she's adorable. And they're pretty much the ones that are moving the plot here. Um, Another thing, well, the Dungeon Crawling, I already talked ad nauseum about it and describe it, and why I really like it. The one part I do not enjoy is that in the Persona games, you have this monster, demon, whatever you want to call it, called the Reaper.
Okay.
So in Persona 3, if you spend too much time on a given floor in Tartarus, you suddenly start to hear chains and you have to run for your fucking life.
Oh no.
Because the Reaper is a high level encounter. I don't know how high of a level it was, but I think it's 60s, 70s. I can't even look for it. Like, actually, like, hold on.
Though that whole kind of system sounds like a nightmare to me because I do not do well with time limits on things in games.
Yeah, like, I mean, you usually wouldn't find the Reaper, I think. Um. Oh, okay. So, there's things that uh make him like appear um more often.
Right.
Where is the stats? Well, I don't know where the stats are. Whatever. It is a very high level encounter, so you usually like wouldn't want to run into him.
Mm-hmm.
But uh, for example, in Persona 3, you have what is called shuffle time.
Right.
There is a way to get like bonuses via like drawing tarot cards,
Mm-hmm.
or you can also get demons. Sorry, personas that way. And there are curse cards that you can avoid if you remember where the fuck the cards are. Um, Now, if you draw a curse card, kind of like it's not like an insta reaper, but it is hastened. Like the the appearance of the reaper is hastened by choosing a curse card.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on an empty floor, which is a random occurrence, the reaper may or may not show up. And also, if you enter a floor with powerful shadows, the shadows are like the enemies of the game, and they appear on the map like this kind of like blobs that have hands and a mask.
Cool.
And some of them are red glowing, and that means they're like a higher level than usual. And if you see those, well, they're very closer than you think. And if you uh, oh, and if there's more shadows on the floor than usual, the review also appears. I think like usually you don't want to spend like too much time on a floor or too much time crawling in a dungeon on a given night. on Persona 4, the appearance of the Reaper it's a little bit different. I think it has to do more with the amount of chests you open.
Right.
I think. And if you've opened too many chests, I don't remember if in a floor, on a night, or whatever, there's the chest can be actually like housing a Reaper, but it will actually tell you before you try to open the chest. I think.
Nice.
But moving to the next floor, usually. Okay, it says. Is it again? Oh, in Golden, it can be encountered in the first playthrough of the game. Oh, in the original, it can only be encountered in New Game Plus. Okay. In order to make it spawn, the protagonist has to open a total of 25 chests. Should that this number of chests be reached, the sound of rattling chains will echo through the dungeon.
Nice.
Okay. Well, in Persona Q, the Reaper is actually an FOE in one of the dungeons.
Yep.
And the fucker will move faster than you usually. Like it, if I remember correctly, it moves like two degrees each time you move one, and it runs directly to you as soon as it sees you, and it's like, well then, I'm fucked. I do remember running into it, and it was very very strong, and I wanted to cry, but still. Oh, just because I can't throw shade on Persona 5. Um, you can run into the Reaper on one of the dungeons, not like in the mainline dungeons, but in like the Mementos dungeon. Um, and the Reaper, I think it's again like if you take like too long in a floor or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that you can choose the Reaper. So so there's allergy season that it lasts like 2 to 3 days on spring in Persona 5.
Mm-hmm.
And if you run into the Reaper on that season, uh, it has the uh like what's the like a status condition.
Yep.
It's the flu season, not the allergy season. Sorry. And the thing is that during that season, all shadows have like the status condition of despair.
Right.
So if you're fighting with them and they take 3 turns to like if you're still alive at the third turn and the shadow is still alive at the third turn, the shadow will off itself. So in a way, you can, and I've done it, go and farm reapers during flu season because they cannot do a lot of stuff to you, and they'll just succumb to despair at the third turn, and then you get a stupid amount of experience.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm still salty about a reaper being like the powerful enemy that it is on other Persona games. Um, it pretty much analyzes itself on Persona 5, which was already a incredibly easy game compared to the others in the series. So you being able to fucking farm the Reaper is stupid. So yeah, sorry.
Yeah, fuck Persona
Where
5.
was I going with this? Anyway, well, oh, also, the other thing that I like this about this game is that um, everyone is able to have like multiple personas.
Mm-hmm.
So usually, the way personas work in Persona games is that each character has their own persona, and the main character is usually able to control many, many personas. One at a
Right.
time, though. So it's kind of like their source of magic powers or like special powers in a way. Um, and they pretty much define like what they are able to do in battle in a way, or what their role in battle is. What is very, very fun about a person like you is that everyone can have multiple personas, so you can really customize the hell out of your party if you which if you wish. I
Yeah.
love that. Like it makes like each party or each playthrough more unique in a way, and like different personas I think have different affinities with your party members. So it's pretty much like if you like party customization, this is the game for you. Like pretty much.
Nice.
Um, and well, I already talked about the FOEs, the 5-member party, and having the front and back lines.
Mm.
So yeah, like this game, it's it's pretty good. I know Persona Q2 is a thing. Tried playing it, but it didn't quite grab me at the beginning. I'm gonna give it like another shot because it looks fun. But Persona Q, Shadow of the Labyrinth will always have a very special place in my heart as the one game that introduced me to the Persona franchise in some way, and also really cemented my love for this kind of dungeon crawling. So yeah, I think I've rambled long enough about this.
Everything you
And
said about that game does
you
not.
hate it.
It's not my kind of thing.
Yeah.
The whole JRPG dungeon, long, like hundreds of hours, turn-based battle type. No. I can see why people get into it though, but yeah, it's not. I've tried
It's not your
a
thing.
couple and never really got hooked. So yeah.
True. Like, out of sheer curiosity, um, this is more like on a strategy kind of thing because it doesn't have like actual levels and grinding.
Right.
Have you played Advance Wars? Or not Advance Wars, sorry, Wargroove.
Yes, I've played Wargroove, and I didn't love it as
And
much as everyone else did.
oh, never mind.
Because I think it was a game of the month a while ago, and
Yeah, it
I played it all
was.
the way through, and I kind of enjoyed it because it's like a little bit of It seemed very light to me as a game. Like it wasn't too heavy or too. There wasn't too much going on to kind of make it confusing. It was very simple as far as like these units counter these units and these ones counter those units, and just kind of strategize a bit and then you're good kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I liked it for that because it didn't feel too grindy. Like I wasn't trying to gain XP just for the sake of progression or something. It felt like I could just play through and progress and get to the end, and there was no real barriers in the way.
Yeah, I thought you would enjoy that one more than like the regular tactical RPG where you have to run and develop units and stuff like that.
Yeah. And yeah, kind of like as a contrast, I've played, and I know it's not the best game in the series, but I've tried playing Final Fantasy 13 about 3 times, but I always get to a
Hmm.
point where it gets really grindy and I just give up.
Very fair. Time is limited.
Yeah, and I find like those turn-based games, such I try to like one of those Hyperdimension Neptunia games as well, which is kind of like a dungeon crawly cutesy RPG and has like
Hmm.
turn-based combat and stuff as well. And basically, yeah, that felt really grindy as well. Like I started playing what is it? Trails of Cold Steel or something, that series.
Yeah.
Um I had one of those for I think PlayStation Vita rather, and I tried playing it, but again, it would just yeah, it felt very grindy. Like it's like they put loads and loads of turn-based battles in to kind of make you get XP and experience and all this kind of stuff. But for me, it's a little bit too much, I think.
Yeah. Understandable.
But there's a whole lot of game there for people who do like that kind of thing. So I can see the appeal. It just doesn't really hit me personally.
Fair enough.
But
Okay, but what kind of game
yeah.
does hit you, but doesn't hit people as much?
Well, going from, epic, long turn-based battle systems and 80 plus hours for main plus and party mechanics, all that kind of stuff, to the complete polar opposite probably of third-person shooter with a little bit of co-op that takes about 5 hours to finish. It is, of course, Kane and Lynch Dead Men, one of the greatest games ever made, in my opinion, and one that I've played repeatedly over the years. I think I've probably finished it and played through it about 5 or 6 times, which is a lot for me because I don't tend to replay games anyway. But yeah, so Kane and Lynch this is the first of 2 Kane and Lynch games. The second one I'm not going to bother talking about because it's kind of, while it's an improvement on the first and everything's upgraded and everything, it's very much a straight sequel. So the same criticisms can be held at both games, and the same praise can be held for both games. Yeah, but the first one, Kane and Lynch Dead Men, and its sequel were both made by IO Interactive, who are a pretty big studio. They're mostly probably well known for their Hitman series. Like, they are behind the Hitman games.
Yeah.
So that's probably their most successful series that they have. And obviously this is published by Square Enix then as well, because I think everything IO does is published by Square Enix. Kane and Lynch Dead Men is a single-player game, but you can play it in co-op if you want, because it features 2 characters named Kane and Lynch. The story is basically... Yeah, I know. Surprise, surprise. So the story starts off, and if you're playing single player, you play as Kane. And Kane is in a prison transport at the beginning of the game, being taken to death row because he's about to be sentenced to death for his crimes. However, a guy that he doesn't know is also in the van, and his name is Lynch. And he tells everyone in the van that, hey, there's going to be a breakout and they're going to make a bolt for it. So very quickly your prison transport kind of gets attacked by external parties, and you end up making a run for it and basically killing a lot of cops and and shooting insane amounts of people, like very unrealistic amounts of people. But Lynch seems to have a invested interest in getting you out of there as Kane, to which you then find out because he's working for a group of criminals called the Seven, who are basically like a mob kind of group of like bosses kind of thing, who you very quickly learn that Kane did a job for them where it was like a bank heist maybe or something, and they think that he stole a bunch of money from them, and so they busted him out because they've kidnapped
he could pay them.
Yeah, because they've kidnapped his wife and his daughter, and they bust him out of jail to say, go get us our money, otherwise we're going to kill your family. And yeah, so then Lynch is kind of like your babysitter from the Seven. He's like been assigned to stick with you and kind of make sure that you do go get the money for the mob and all that kind of thing. Whereas Kane, who's obviously invested in rescuing his wife and daughter, he professes that he didn't actually steal the money anyway, but he knows who did. So you go on this journey for the first half of the game to basically recover the cash and take out the people who took it from you in the first place and put you in that position. And by the end of the game, you kind of, mild spoilers, but it doesn't really ruin anything, I think, to know that you kind of eventually go on a revenge arc against the Seven and kind of chase down these bosses around the world and, hook up with some previous allies and things who become your kind of little team, and you just basically go around the world killing loads and loads of criminals and militia people and stuff to get to their bosses and, yeah, basically take them all out and rescue your daughter. One of the interesting things, though, is that neither Kane or Lynch are likable characters. They're both assholes, essentially. But I really like the way that they're written, because even though they're bad people and they're not nice people, I think they're very interesting characters, and they're written with very unique kind of backstories and characterizations for each one. Because Kane is very much the kind of very serious, no nonsense kind of hardened criminal guy, whereas Lynch is like the off the wall pill popping psycho. Quite literally, because you can play the game in co-op, because Kane and Lynch are always together throughout the whole game. So in co-op, you basically each play one or the other. One of you plays Kane, one of you plays Lynch. And the interesting thing about Lynch is that every now and then he kind of has these psychotic episodes where he kind of spins out. And if you're playing as him, every NPC on the screen looks like a police officer who's attacking you. So he basically goes nuts and starts shooting every single person he can see because he thinks he's under attack, even if they're just regular civilians or whatever. And so there's like this one scene where to recover some money, you kind of do a bank heist with some friends, and there's a part where Lynch basically starts just shooting civilians and going nuts because he's having an episode. And so Kane doesn't like him very much either, because he's not controlled like Kane is, and he's not calculated and methodical and, all business. He's basically a complete lunatic. But that's kind of cool, because it's a nice balance to have, I think, in the game, because while it's not really like a buddy cop kind of thing, it's like a buddy criminal kind of story. And as much as they kind of don't necessarily like each other, or they don't have this weird thing where they become friends or anything like that, but they have to get along and they have to kind of cooperate to, reach their goals kind of thing. So it's a very interesting dynamic.
And it reminds me of my playthrough of Disco Elysium, because my main character is a hot mess, and he's not precisely brilliant. Like, the child talks to him.
Yeah.
And what was the name of the cop that is sent to aid him? I forgot.
I don't know. I haven't played Disco Elysium.
Okay, so he's supposed to be working with another cop or a detective, I didn't remember. That is like the no-nonsense kind of character. And I'm like, well, I don't remember my name. Do you know where my gun is? And he's like, for fuck's sake, what am I working with this idiot?
Yeah, there's a bit of that going on in Kane and Lynch, let me tell you. So the story, I think, is really good, because while it doesn't necessarily do mind-blowingly new stuff where you're like, oh, I've never seen that before in a story, what it does do, I think it does pretty damn well, and especially with the characters and how they develop, because there's just, random sequences where they'll be arguing as well, because they don't like each other, but they have to kind of work together. So they'll be in the middle of shooting down heaps of enemies and trying to survive, or chasing down a boss on level or something, while they're kind of arguing with each other, because they've both got different ideas about how to go about it. And they're both quite strong personalities, and they're, tooled up with lots of guns. So, they're really interesting, I think, characters to kind of play as and experience in the campaign. Meanwhile, I think the actual gunplay itself, because you're doing a hell of a lot of shooting, is a lot of fun. There's a bunch of different weapons you can pick up, but they're kind of what you expect. Like, there's shotguns and there's sniper rifles, and there's machine guns, and there's different types of pistols, and there's like grenades and things that you can throw, and just regular kind of weaponry out that you'd expect for this kind of game, I suppose. Like realistic stuff. It's not sci-fi or anything. It's totally straight and narrow. Yeah, you can pick up weapons from enemy corpses and stuff. You can change it up however you want to play, but it's got a similar kind of ballistic feel to something like a Max Payne or something similar to that, where they've kind of rendered each bullet in the environment. And to me, I feel like that actually changes the game feel a lot to if it's just like a hit scan weapon, which is where, you point it at something and you pull the trigger, and wherever you're pointing gets hit. Whereas it feels like you're more shooting an actual projectile out of your weapon and it's flying through the air. And if it happens to hit something, then it damages them. But if it doesn't, because maybe they move or something, then, it doesn't do anything. So I really like that kind of game feel in shooters because it kind of, it sucks you in a bit more. I think it ties you more to the actual gameplay because you've got that more feedback kind of coming to you that what you're doing actually is happening. And that sort of stuff I find really cool. There's some really cool levels and ideas in the whole game. I've spoken about in a previous NG Plus the Tokyo level, which this game was kind of famous for when it did come out. That was one thing that got praised a lot compared with its criticisms, which I'll get to in a second. But one of the things that universally people were like, wow, this is cool, was this level where you basically go to a Tokyo nightclub because the person who runs the nightclub is one of the bosses that you're trying to hunt down and, get revenge on and get money from and kill. So you basically rock up at night at this Tokyo nightclub where it's packed and there's like hundreds and hundreds of people and NPCs on the dance floor dancing around in the dark with like flashing lights and everything. So it's a really intense kind of different kind of environment to be in. And you essentially like work your way through the crowd and you head upstairs to where the manager is and the owner is, and you kind of have it out with them. And, things happen. Shit goes pear-shaped. Maybe Lynch kind of gets a bit trigger happy and kills a few people because he is a psycho. And, everything goes to shit. But because it's like a pumping nightclub down below the management, like they don't hear the shots or anything. So you kind of try to leave again and everyone's still dancing and everything. And the dance floor is full of like, again, hundreds of people. And all you see are like security guards with flashlights kind of walking around in the dark looking for you. So you can kind of avoid them for a while, but then you get to a point where you kind of have to go through where they can see and you'll start shooting each other. So the civilian crowd just goes mental and they all start running away just as you would if someone started shooting in a nightclub. And so everyone's like running every which way and trying to leave the whole place. And it takes a good amount of time for everyone to actually escape. And if you do just start opening fire willy-nilly, you can shoot a whole lot of civilians and as well as enemies and that sort of thing. So the bodies can pile up real quick. But if you actually take your time and do some hiding and take cover and stuff, you can kind of let everyone run out and leave. And you eventually end up with an empty nightclub that's you and a bunch of security dudes who are trying to kill you, basically. So it's just such a cool level because it's really dynamic. And at least at that point, no one had really seen anything like that before in a kind of third-person shooter kind of game with that many NPCs and that sort of thing. And it really is like an overwhelming thing to witness. Like, even if you've got no interest in this game, it's probably worth like Googling it on YouTube or something because, yeah, it was quite impressive. However, when this game came out, it did get criticized a fair bit for various reasons. In fact, Destructoid, I looked up, gave it a 3 out of 10.
Wow.
It did average, it averaged about 67, 65 in general, which isn't, while not great, it's not terrible. Like, it's not as awful as it could have been. But like, a lot of places gave it like a 7 out of 10, the classic 7 out of 10. But then other places gave it like 6 or even down to like 5, or Destructoid's 3. PC Gamer gave it 58%, which is a 5 out of 10 basically, so not that great. And part of that was due to the length, because essentially when it came out, I think it took about 5 or 6 hours to complete. And this was before other full price games had come out that took about 5 or 6 hours to complete. Because this game came out in, I think, about, I want to double check, 2007 it came out. So this is a bit earlier than your, Order 1886 or whatever it's called, and which was, I think, 4 hours and a full game, or other titles that fit the same bill. So, and I agree with that criticism, to be fair. I think that is dumb. Like, if you are going to pay full price for a game, you should get a good amount of game in there. And it should be at least a satisfying amount of game. So, I do think there is a thing about that. But there was also a big controversy around GameSpot and Jeff Gerstmann, who gave the game 6 out of 10, while Eidos Interactive was an advertiser on the site and basically called up GameSpot and had them fire Jeff Gerstmann for giving it a 6 out of 10, which, again, I think is not good and stupid, because regardless of whether they're an advertiser or not, bad luck, you should give a proper review kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jeff Gerstmann obviously went on to found Giant Bomb and, had a career after that, which was good for him. But that was kind of this whole thing as well at the time, where it kind of made the news in gaming world because basically someone gave a bad review and their advertiser told them to get fired, and they did. And it was like, GameSpot sucks kind of thing.
Kind of funny how he was like, well, it sucks that he got fired, but then he was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to make my own review site.
Yeah.
Goodbye, suckers.
Yeah.
And it went to be a very big review site.
I'd say more popular than GameSpot these days.
Yep, definitely.
And this is all confirmed as well, because there was an NDA that kind of ended in 2012, which then Gerstmann and other people, like there's another dude called John Davison at GameSpot who was part of it as well, who all confirmed that, yeah, he was fired because Eidos Interactive demanded that he get fired as their main advertiser. And that's just dirty. Like, I feel bad for Jeff Gerstmann and all that, even though he did give it a bad review. Like, you shouldn't get fired over that when your job is reviewing stuff. Like,
yeah,
that's just fucking stupid. But so yeah, that aside, because I support that kind of, like, I agree with that sort of stuff, but that's got really nothing to do with the game anyway. That's just like dumb business shit. But what I don't agree with is the score that, the game got, and especially that 3 out of 10 from Destructoid, because that's tight. Where I think if this, at the time when this came out, there weren't many games in that kind of $30 to $40 mark. I'm speaking like US dollars, where $60 being the full kind of blockbuster game price for your Call of Duties and whatever. Yeah, there wasn't heaps in that kind of mid-range, like $30-$40 kind of thing. So I feel like this game, if it came out now, probably would have sat in that kind of range, because even though it's short, the production values are pretty high, and it had a lot of effort put into it, and it's by a big studio and all this kind of stuff. So I feel like it would have like maybe sit quite well in, say, a $40 kind of category, where it's still a premium, but not trying to be as big as, say, Hitman or something, which IO Interactive also did. So yeah, that's kind of a brief thing on the controversy around the game. But I just wanted to very quickly as well talk about the multiplayer, which I think was also one of the big strengths of the game, because they had this multiplayer-based mode called Fragile Alliance, which, again, I think predated Payday, or Payday 2 at least, or that kind of thing. But it was basically like a Payday kind of mode, where it was you and your other human players against AI enemies. So you guys would always be the robbers and the criminals, and you'd be attacking banks and things to steal money and everything against AI cops and security guards and whoever. And it was called Fragile Alliance because essentially the whole idea was to get in, steal as much money as you can each, and you carried your own amount of money on your back. And then there would be a getaway car at the end. So you try and get to the getaway car and you leave. And whoever leaves, however much money has been taken, you kind of split between you. So if you all make it out, you all kind of share in the money that you've all taken. But there was a little bit of incentive to kind of betray everybody. Because
just a little bit.
Yeah, if you were good enough at the game and you were smart enough, you could kind of, stay back at the getaway car and kind of defend and like take out dudes as your allies are kind of escaping. But then you can kind of kill them as well if you get the jump on them, steal their money, take all the money, and then jump in the getaway car and bugger off and leave the others behind and basically have all the money for yourself. But obviously that's kind of difficult, because if you don't succeed, then your allies are probably definitely going to kill you and take your money, even if they escape together as
unless
well.
you have like a companion there. And it's like, hey, let's kill everyone and we get all the money.
Yeah. So it was cool because, again, it was very innovative at the time. Like, that was some of the very first multiplayer that did that kind of thing. Whereas, now there's a lot of that kind of stuff in GTA, or like I say, in like Payday and that kind of thing. Yeah, it was just this really tense. It's amazing how much tension there is when you really can't trust anyone, and that people playing multiplayer games are pretty much dicks as a rule anyway when they're not your friends. So they have no reason to work with you, especially once you're almost escaped, and they just turn around and start shooting you in the head, and you're like, hey, whoa, what's going on? I thought we were friends. But yeah, lots of fun in that gameplay and everything. Unfortunately, I don't think you can actually play the multiplayer anymore because it's just an old game. I think another problem it had was it used Games for Windows Live on PC at the time. So that doesn't help because we all know that that's a shit show. I played it on PlayStation 3 initially and then got it on Steam later. Yeah, it's one of those games that's just like flat out action from start to finish, and it's really, really violent, and you literally pile up hundreds, if not thousands, of bodies in your wake as you play through this kind of interesting story with these interesting characters. And yeah, I think it's definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of third-person shooters or those sorts of heist kind of feel games. And yeah, these days you can, I think, still pick it up pretty damn cheap because it is not the most popular game in the world. So I think you can buy it for like $5 or something these days, which is, in my mind, a perfect steal because you definitely get your money's worth in that regard.
Funny how it is a perfect steal being a heist game.
Hey, right on. So yeah, that's Kane and Lynch Dead Men, and I would basically say the sequel, Kane and Lynch Dog Days, basically changes it up a little bit where you now play as Lynch, but you're also with Kane again, and you've got something else to solve and something else to figure out. But it's better graphics, it's more insane story, and it's way more intense and perhaps even more violent. I don't know, but just everything's ratcheted up to another level kind of thing. But yeah, for interest's sake though, I was looking on How Long to Beat, and for Kane Lynch Dead Men rather, getting both of the games mixed up there, but the average main story is 6 hours, which I actually thought was a bit long, especially for an average, because these days when I play it, it probably takes me about 4 hours to get through, but that's obviously a replay, so I know what I'm doing, and I know where to go and what to do.
You already know the game.
Yeah, and I know the game pretty well, so yeah. But then if you want to do completionists and stuff, it averages out to about 11 hours, which, isn't too bad if you really want to get stuck into it, if you're enjoying yourself. I don't think I've ever done I'm not sure what's involved with completionists because it's not like there's many side objectives or anything, or it's pretty linear and pretty straightforward kind of story. So yeah, and it's too early for like achievements and stuff. So I'm not really sure. Well, maybe there were trophies on PlayStation or something. I can't remember, but I'm sure there were some multiplayer ones as well that you just can't get anymore. So yeah, definitely a great game. I think it's great. It's one of those games that whenever I mention it, everyone always goes, ha ha ha, what a shit game. But I have to always defend it. And it is one of my favorite games of all time because it's just so much fun. And I haven't actually played anything like it since playing this game and its sequel. So that, I think, counts for something as well. It's very unique, for better or worse.
True.
So yeah, two games that are probably at very opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, definitely.
Between Persona Q and Kane Lynch.
Even though Kane Lynch kind of like calls out to me in the sense of because of the character interactions and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that kind of gameplay.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's the thing. If you're not like me with Persona, like if you're not a fan of third-person shooter, violent, lots of guns, lots of dead bodies kind of gameplay, you're not going to like this game. Even though the story's cool and the characters are cool and like I think it's interesting, it's definitely not, obviously if you don't like the genre, you're not going to get into it. So, but I would highly recommend anyone look up the nightclub scene on YouTube, because it is to this day quite an impressive kind of thing, I think. And maybe you'll disagree. But I think that's where we're going to leave it. Hey, Paula.
Yeah, I think it's time to go. We've ranted about these games like long enough.
Yeah.
And if no one shuts us up, we're gonna be here forever.
That's right. I'll do a call out to anyone listening. If there are games that you love that other people perhaps don't, or that got really bad scores but you think is brilliant, love to hear about it, because I love to hear those kind of contrary opinions and perhaps get convinced to check something out that maybe doesn't have the best reputation. So,
or just talk about your favorite game.
That too.
That's good too.
But yeah, we're gonna shut it down there and end this New Game Plus. We'll be back to regular programming next time, I imagine. So thanks for having a listen, and a bit of a quicker one this time, but we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye-bye.